So today was supposed to be the start of Season 2 for Battlefield 6, but with the month's delay and the entire reason for it being around fixing the game and bringing it into a spot where players can enjoy it more, I've spent a fair amount of time recently thinking about what the team needs to do. You've seen me recently highlight several reasons why I think Battlefield 6 has taken a fall in player numbers, and we've done a whole video on 7 classic maps that I think the team should add to the game to add some proper gameplay variety. But today, I want to talk about the gunplay and how it could be more rewarding and satisfying, and this idea stems from others in the community. I'll link those responsible for the idea in the description. I'll get into their idea in just a moment, but first of all, let me give you some background on the gunplay. Battlefield 6 launched with some pretty severe issues with its gunplay, although it did take a couple of weeks for players to really start noticing it, and then a couple more weeks for the developers to start fixing it. Spread or bloom wasn't working as intended, and was in many cases not transitioning quickly enough when changing stances. That often led to your sights being on target, but your bullets going nowhere near where you're pointing. Add to this a problem with the recoil mechanic in the game, which has been patched but isn't entirely fixed, where to compensate for recoil, you need to input more control than is actually needed via your mouse or controller. And we've got a pretty fresh situation here. Only just recently have players been really able to get a hold of the gunplay in Battlefield 6 and really feel what it should have been like at launch. With the recoil issue specifically, it's still present in the game, and in some cases, so you still don't know 100% what the gunplay is really intended to be for this game, and that's kind of scary when you think about it. But with the recoil fix now coming in a future update, as confirmed by developer Drunksy, we're now almost at the point of having Battlefield 6's true gunplay on display, and it's presenting some further issues. The gunplay isn't particularly rewarding or skillful in this game, and I'm sure you've noticed, especially since the fixes were applied to the spread or bloom, that lots of guns feel particularly beamy. The higher rate of fire weapons in the game are the ones that you'll notice this on more. You just kind of start firing, you do a few taps, and then you'll land some kills if you just keep things on target. And you'll also have noticed that the TTK, or time to kill in Battlefield 6, at close range is exceedingly fast, leading to a lot of gunfights being over incredibly quickly, with little or no time at all for you to react to someone shooting at you. I think this was decided upon to make sure that, as Battlefield is a casual shooter, that anyone and everyone can get kills in this game, regardless of their skill level. I support that decision, to be honest. I think everyone should be able to enjoy the game and succeed in it to some level. However, the TTK at close range is so damn fast that it simply feels cheap and unrewarding. So to that end, let me now introduce the idea to resolve these two issues: lightning fast close range TTK and generally unrewarding gunplay. This idea comes from NickelBF, a former Battlefield 4 competitive player and content creator, and recently he spoke to Enders about the issue, and Enders made a video on it, which this one is inspired from. I've linked both of their channels in the description, but it revolves around not directly adjusting the TTK in Battlefield 6, but instead utilizing other areas of gunplay systems to build something more rewarding for everybody, and to introduce a subtle, small skill gap that would be easy to learn for everyone, but a little bit harder to master for people who want more from the gunplay. Step number 1 would be to reintroduce limb damage multipliers in Battlefield 6. I didn't actually know that this wasn't a thing in the game until now, but now that I do know it, it makes so much more sense why you feel like you get deleted so fast sometimes. Currently, anywhere you land a shot on the body, outside of a headshot, rewards the same amount of damage. So a shot to the torso and a shot to, say, the leg nets you the same damage. Previous Battlefield games used limb damage multipliers to lower the damage applied when your shots hit extremities, like hands, arms, legs, etc., and contributed to a lengthening of the TTK without needing to adjust the default damage values. You just apply a multiplier to different body parts. A change like this would make it harder to achieve the shortest TTK possible for weapons in Battlefield 6, because you're making the target a little bit smaller. You're removing those extremities and only allowing the torso shots to deal the standard damage value. Any shots to extremities would lengthen the TTK and would introduce a small additional amount of skill to the gunplay. Accurate shooting to the torso, and of course to the head, would result in the shortest time to kill. Shots to the extremities would increase the time to kill, incentivizing players to get better at aiming. Now, the reason Nickel landed on this idea is because a game-wide TTK change, a complete rebalancing of the damage profiles of weapons, according to him, would not only take an exceedingly long time, but it would also negatively impact weapons that have a slower rate of fire. Plus, right now, a game-wide TTK change wouldn't necessarily result in a positive outcome because the close-range TTK issues are only present across a smaller set of weapons in the game, namely the ones that have high damage output and a faster rate of fire. Adding back in limb damage multipliers keeps those weapons in their intended position in the overall balance of the game, and it maintains the current effective TTK, but it introduces a small skill curve to the gunplay. Step 2 of the plan builds on all of that by then restructuring how headshot multipliers work in Battlefield 6, and the different types of ammo that can affect them. Currently in Battlefield 6, default headshot multipliers are pretty low compared to previous titles in the franchise, and they're boosted by the adding of different ammo types into your weapon. Currently, both hollow point and synthetic tip ammunition increase the headshot multiplier to 1.5 and 1.75 times respectively, but with both coming at considerable cost in the customization point system. Nickel's suggestion here is to set the game-wide default headshot multiplier to that of the current synthetic tip ammo value, 1.75 times, to add greater reward onto headshots in gunfights and to recognize their rarity compared to the copious amounts of body and limb shots that you're more likely to hit. Doing that, however, would require a rework of synthetic tip ammunition, so the suggestion here is to increase that headshot multiplier value to 2 times, but then to limit which weapons were given synthetic tip as an ammo option within customization. Weapons that wouldn't become instantly overpowered by having access to it. But then that leaves hollow point, which now has a lower headshot multiplier, 1.5, than the new base multiplier, 1.75 for headshots. So the suggestion here is to remove the benefit of an increased headshot multiplier from hollow point completely, and instead pivot the ammo type towards ignoring limb multipliers. Again, creating a situation where it would only need to be available to certain weapons that already have a slow rate of fire or are on the longer end of the TTK spectrum. This would reprofile Battlefield 6's headshot system, but it keeps it within the confines of what currently already exists in the game. Plus, it adds further skill to the gunplay by rewarding headshots across the board. It's an additional layer in the gunplay that currently doesn't exist that would reward accurate shooting and give players a skill curve to traverse to get better at the game. Both of these steps would improve Battlefield 6's gunplay significantly. Nickel has presented an alternative that would add depth to the game, something Battlefield 6 is sorely lacking at the moment, in an area that is universally interacted with. Every single player of Battlefield 6 has a loadout. They have a weapon in their hands. Suddenly, you'd have a gunplay system that rewarded consistent good aim on the right parts of a target. Headshots would matter more than they currently do, and you wouldn't need to fundamentally change a system that players are now comfortable with several months post-launch. Instead, you'd be tweaking it, placing it in a better spot to benefit the game long-term. Plus, it would shake up the choices that players could make with their weapons, because now there's a couple of extra elements they need to consider. Should you take a slower firing weapon, but equip hollow point to boost the damage to extremities, giving me essentially a bigger target to land my shots on? Or do you equip a weapon that has access to synthetic tip and just go all out for headshots in gunfights? The choice opens up on weapons again with this kind of change, so shout out to Nickel for the idea. It's a really good one. And to Enders, whose video I watched on this topic and decided to make my own because, well, I thought it was a really good idea, and I wanted to signal boost it because it's a pretty good alternative to what we've got in Battlefield 6 at the moment. As I said earlier, there are various areas of Battlefield 6 that need improvement, and we've spoken about several of those recently, but this idea goes into more depth, and it has tangible benefits for players of the game and for the game itself by providing more depth. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Drop a like on this video to support it. Check out Nickel and Enders, both linked in the description too. Thanks for watching.